Hello, welcome to episode 14 of Should I Make My Family Watch, a podcast where I make my friends and family watch crappy horror and sci-fi movies so you don't have to. I'm your host, Desiree, and joining me today is special guest Destiny Pfeiffer. Did I say it
Yep.
right?
Yep, you did.
Perfect. Welcome.
Thank you for
Uh,
having me.
Together, we're going to break down the storyline and we're going to rate it on the scale of 1 to 5. 1 is only a little bit crappy. 5 is the worst dung heap ever. I know it's kind of backwards for most people. Um, and then we're going to turn it over for other people to watch because this one actually wasn't terrible, I thought. Today's movie is 2021's The Return, starring Richard Harmon. And I would say I felt like it kept my attention, even if it was a little confusing with the back and forth flashbacks between, excuse me, his parents and current kind of timelines. But overall, I didn't think it was that terrible of a movie.
I thought it was confusing. I thought it was so confusing. Um, because he had a romance with one girl and then he ends up with another one. And I was so confused on what happened with the sister, what was so significant about the basement, and all the equations. I just kind of found myself getting lost so many times.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you on that 100%. I think for me, at least, the acting was good enough that I didn't mind a few plot holes because at least the acting was okay
Yeah.
compared to some of the other ones that we've had on this show. This one was, I think, one of the better ones I've seen. So I know that the main character, and I didn't write down his name. I do this every time. Uh, I believe it was Roger, though.
Yeah.
Roger, he just finds out that his father dies and he's inherited the house, and so he goes back to the house with his girlfriend and his best friend to settle affairs, I guess. And the best friend is supposed to be the person he's been friends with since he was a little kid. And so there's some sort of implied, I guess, childish romance from there. But he's
Yeah.
with this other girl currently. Um, and and then yeah, I guess it is kind of hard to follow. I know they're seeing some ghostly apparitions in there, and they think that his father also saw this apparition, which may have been why he died. That part I wasn't super clear on.
Yeah.
And
Neither was I.
uh, he, let's see. Well, I didn't write any notes. He ends up finding a file down in his basement that I guess led him to believe he had been seeing a psychiatrist for something. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, you're seeing all these whiteboards down there, like you mentioned, the equations. His mom was some brilliant mathematician, but they never really say what she was working on, only that she was obsessed with it. And then the little sister died at some point, and then his mom kind of went downhill, and then she died, maybe.
Yeah. It was. I still don't know how the little sister died.
I don't
Or
know that
how
they
the
ever
mother.
said.
Yeah.
Well, so that I mean, I don't know how they said that those two people died, but as you get through the movie, the girlfriend ends up disappearing, and then I guess they just never really look for her again. They were just like, "Oh, cool, see ya," and
Yeah.
then
Apparently.
he sort of pursues his romantic interest with his best friend, who I thought she was more entertaining anyway, so that didn't really hurt my
Yeah.
feelings any. But and then he tries to solve his mom's equation and then also confronts the psychiatrist that he was seeing as a kid you don't really get any answers on that. What
Yeah.
he was being seen because he had an imaginary friend.
But the psychiatrist was also seeing his father. Wasn't she romantically involved with his father?
She did imply that, and she was also briefly seeing his sister. for something else.
Yeah, I was just really, really confused.
Not a favorite for you.
No, I recognize the actor that played Roger. I think I've seen him in some different things, but yeah,
He
the
normally
movie.
plays kind of a depressed or like angry sort of background character on like TV.
Okay, yeah. I wasn't a fan of this movie. It was just so confusing and I had way too many questions.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I think that for me, when they waited all the way until the end to really pitch it at you, it was supposed to be, and I could be incorrect, it was supposed to be his mom had figured out the equation for time travel. And he, as a child, was upset at her because she hit him. So he went and changed part of her formula, which messed up her equation. So when she ran her time travel machine, she sort of got stuck in the future and the past at the same time, which didn't make any sense to me, but I'm not a mathematician, so I was just hoping that would be
Yeah.
somehow it maybe made sense. But and then that was kind of the end. He like
Yeah.
I think he fixed the equation, he went back in time, and then he changed what he did as a child, which maybe fixed the future, but it was a very brief wrap up.
Yeah.
So
It was something.
well, was there anything you liked about this movie? You don't have to say yes.
I mean, I think he fit better with the girl that was his friend than he did with his girlfriend, but other than that, not really.
That's fair. All right. What would you rate it then? A 1 out of 5. 1 is only a little bit crappy. 5 is like the worst. You would rather smack yourself in the face than see this thing again.
I have 5.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
You're on the opposite side of the spectrum. I think I'd give it a 1 because I'm curious enough about it to watch it at least one more time, maybe in the future. But I did like his friend, his childhood friend, sort of that sense of humor that she carried throughout the movie.
Yeah.
That was really the most enjoyable part. I thought was her script.
Yeah, she was likable.
Okay. All right. We're going to turn it over to some questions for you. So, and I have not briefed you on these, so hopefully, hopefully you can come up with some answers pretty quick here.
Okay.
What is your favorite shitty movie?
Oh God. Probably Night of the Demons.
That's a good one. Actually, I think you're the second person who said that one.
Really?
That's a popular one. I can't remember who else said it, but just recently somebody else did.
I'll note another one, and it's one that not a lot of people have heard of called Mirror Mirror with an actress named Rainbow Harvest. That was really bad.
Was it a kid, like a young adult movie?
No, it was a horror movie.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Okay,
a
I
flat
don't
out
think I've seen that one. So what do you like about it? What is it about this movie that makes it like a good shitty movie for you?
Well, Night of the Demons was I liked the character Roger. I thought he was the only smart one in the group. But I thought the makeup and special effects were like wonderful. Whoever did the makeup job was like incredible at making them look scary. But it was pretty good. I like the whole demonic possession thing.
What is the worst movie you've ever seen? And it doesn't have to be a horror movie.
Actually, it is a horror movie. The worst movie I ever saw was called Night Train to Terror, I think. It was one my parents bought, and it was like the cheesiest, crappiest movie I have ever seen.
That sounds like a good one for the show. Night Train of Terror.
Yeah, just look up. It had the guy that played Bull in Night Court. He played in it, which was
Oh,
unusual.
interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting because was always a comedian, but he played like a really bad, horrible character in it. But it was like the crappiest horror movie ever.
What kind of horror genre, subgenre is your favorite?
I'm very much into like the cults and the supernatural, but I also like, psychological type horror as well.
So you like a little bit of everything. Is there
I
any
do.
kind that you don't like?
I'm not a big fan of the Saw movies. No,
That makes sense.
Hostel movies. Yeah, I'm not a fan of those.
The extreme gore kind of.
Yeah, extreme torture flicks.
Yeah. I feel you there. Those are not. I have to watch those very sparingly. I think I feel them a little too vividly to take those very often.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
another one is Cannibal Holocaust. Couldn't stand that movie.
that has been recommended to me, and I have not watched it yet. Is it worse than Saw or better?
Worse, worse in my opinion.
Okay. Do you prefer to get your horror from books or movies or audiobooks, or how do you like to get your books? Your horror.
I'm inspired by both movies and books. I think the books kind of inspire me on a style I want to write, but
Mm-hmm.
watching different movies, gives me ideas and helps plan ideas in my head.
So a little bit of both the
Yeah,
actual print and movies.
yeah.
That's good. What do you want to see more of in horror? What do you think is something that isn't fleshed out enough?
It's a really good question. I think witchcraft isn't explored enough. I mean, you have
Or
the witchy movies like that make witches out to be like evil, nasty, but I mean, I'm talking about like practical magic, the craft. I mean, those were ones that they used, actual Wiccan for, and I think it would be nice to explore that topic a little more.
I agree. I think my husband complains because I'll watch a movie with him, and I hate when they don't even do like the littlest bit of research into what kind of witchcraft they're talking about, and they just sort of lump it all in and make it up as they go. Like, I'm
Yeah,
all for artistic creativity and that kind of thing, but I get very upset when that sort of thing is mischaracterized, or they
exactly.
try to make the witch always super evil, and like, I don't know. I think that's just been done a million times. I think a good representation. Actually, I did read a book. I think it's called The Change, and it's about women over like 40 who kind of become witches late in their life and then sort of wreak havoc on the people who had wronged them previously, like mostly ex-husbands, which is pretty funny. But I
Yeah,
think that was an interesting representation of especially older women and witches in the same book. Was really interesting. But I agree, definitely need more accurate portrayal of witchcraft in books and movies and all of it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Um, what I know you just released a book. How long
Yes.
ago? Last week?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
Okay, tell me about it. I want to hear all about it.
It's called The House That Echoed Madness, and it's about a young woman named Temple who receives a letter. She's estranged from her family, and she receives a letter from relatives telling her that she needs to come to this old mansion. Her mother is very ill and tried to commit suicide. And when Temple gets there, she discovers that there's something not right and that there's a family curse.
Oh,
And basically, you have with this curse, you have two options. you could either choose to become possessed or you choose madness. And she learns that her mother chose madness, but her mother isn't as far gone as everyone thinks she is. She ends up providing some answers for Temple. But it's also there's ghosts. It's a very haunted house. There's a very evil book that was acquired by a very wicked ancestor who wanted to try and maybe take over the world. And Temple has to go. She goes through like secret passageways. She has to try and figure out how to keep herself from falling prey to this curse. And there's witchcraft, demonic possession, monsters, lab experiments gone wrong. It's got a little bit of everything in it. Never
that sounds awesome.
Moment. Yeah. And there's a pretty ghost.
There's a what?
There's a pretty helpful ghost that really provides some help as well.
So what was your inspiration for this?
I think I've always found I grew up watching reruns of Dark Shadows, and I was actually inspired a lot by it because it was like family curse and the witchcraft. There's witchcraft in my book, but there was a lot of it just popped into my head. There are just ideas that just pop right into my head. So some of it came from old movies and TV shows, and some of it came from a lot of it came from my imagination.
Are you working on anything right now, or are you taking a break after putting out your baby?
I started working on my second novel yesterday.
You can tell us what it's about? Or are you still fleshing it out a little bit?
Still fleshing it out a little bit. But it's been on my mind for the last 8 years. So it's been a story I've been wanting to put out. But I wanted to put this one out first because this baby was like 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started it when my son was in elementary school. And he's 16 now, and that's how long it's taken for me to finally get it published. So I'm hoping that it does really well.
So you've had it written, like you started it that long ago, or you just sort of started conceptualizing?
I started that long ago. It took me a year. I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom for 16 years, and I was working 2 jobs. One as a news reporter for my local newspaper, and then the other taking care of my mother on the weekends. And then I also, of course, managing a small child. So I often had to stay up late into the night and then early in the morning before I got up for school. I mean, I didn't get a lot of sleep, but I was determined to write this novel and get it published one day. That was my ultimate goal. So I sacrificed a lot of sleep. No fun during that time, no time, because all my other time went for my son. So yeah,
that's cool that you got to see it's realized now. Tell me a little bit about how you felt when you submitted it and it got accepted by Unveiling Nightmares.
I had to read the message like 2 or 3 times. The acceptance, because I was like, oh, you're kidding me. Finally? Oh my God, finally? I had been trying for 10 years and I put it off on like the back burner, and I was really starting to doubt myself as a writer because I was trying to find an agent, couldn't find one, I was getting all these rejection letters. And I had a friend that said, you need to keep trying. And one of my fellow writer friends introduced me to Unveiling Nightmares, and I submitted it, they loved it, and I was like, oh, finally, thank God. I mean, I am going on 43, so it's been a dream for quite some time.
Well, that's awesome though. And it's never too late to achieve your dreams. So
Exactly.
hopefully the next one goes a little quicker for you than 16 years of waiting and working,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What have you read or watched in the last week that is not crappy? Have you seen anything awesome you would like to recommend to people?
I just actually got done seeing Elvira, Mistress of the Dark with my son because my son has a major crush on her, and I love Cassandra Peterson. Um,
Okay.
it's pretty funny, and it does have witchcraft in it, but she's hilarious. I absolutely love her. I just saw that. And of course, I'm a huge fan of the TV show Supernatural, so I've been binging that again.
I don't think I got stopped after the first season, but that one's definitely I would if I had to pick a mainstream, I guess, supernatural show, that would be it. There's a little bit of everything in there.
Oh yeah, it really picks up, especially around the season 4. It picks up pretty
Oh,
good. Yeah,
I don't think I made it that far.
yeah.
I do my
Oh, go
oh,
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my brother named his son Dean after the one of the characters in there, which I thought was kind of a fun, weird thing for him because he's not a very big horror guy, but I guess that's mainstream enough for him.
Yeah, I actually just went to the Steel City Con in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, and I met two of the actors from Supernatural. The one that plays Lucifer, and then the woman
Mm.
that played like a demon named Abaddon. I got both of
Oh,
their
that's cool.
autographs, and the guy that played Lucifer is so sweet and nice. So yeah,
You
he
wouldn't
was.
know it.
You wouldn't know it, but yeah, he was a sweetheart. Yeah.
What sort of books are I guess this is a twofold question. What is your favorite horror book, and what sort of book do you think would be the most closely related to yours? Like, if someone was looking for if you like this book, you'll like The House that Echoed Madness.
Um, my favorite book is actually a book called Katie by the late Michael McDonald or McDowell, Michael McDowell. Sorry. Um, is about it took place like back in the Victorian times. There's this girl, she's a psychopath, and there's this other girl whose life she's ruined, who sets out to try and stop the girl and her family. That actually became my favorite book. Just the way he wrote that about, going back in like the gothic type South and having this really messed up psychopath and this good girl kind of end up clashing. It was just really good. And then I just discovered Ruby Jean Jensen, who's known for writing about possessed horror dolls and also
Oh,
about possession. So yeah, those two
I've
were big.
never heard of either of those.
Yeah, yeah, those two really inspired me. So
Where can people find your stuff right now?
they can find them on Amazon.com. They're available on Kindle and in paperback. And I believe she was going to be submitting to like Barnes and Nobles certain titles. So I'm hoping it ends up in Barnes and Nobles and maybe someday Walmart, where more people can see it. Because everybody
Yeah,
keeps asking me where can we find it.
yeah, hopefully it gets that's the I think the dream for everybody is getting it on a bookshelf somewhere like in a bookstore that you just walk through and you happen to see your book out there. I think
Yeah,
everybody has those kind of thoughts in there.
yeah.
And then do you have a website currently, or is it still it's just they can find you on the Unveiling Nightmares website?
They can find me on there or Facebook. I have my own author page on Facebook, and that's where I
Oh, okay.
do the most updating is on
Perfect.
Facebook.
I will make sure that gets linked and tagged on there.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to share about your stuff before we sign off?
Not really. I mean, I know a lot of people in my town aren't really horror fans. Everybody's like, oh, why would you write about horror? But I think if they gave this book a chance, they'd be surprised. Maybe, like, wow, where on earth did she get these ideas? But I just, my dream is for a lot of people to get the chance to read this book because I put a lot of heart into it.
16 years worth of work in there. I think it sounds like a kind of thing that would be interesting enough to not just avid horror readers, but, people who maybe don't read horror very often, just dabble a little bit, especially around spooky season coming up. So we'll make sure we link that, the book directly. So they just got to click over to get it. And that is next on my TBR list is yours. So
all right.
I'll make sure I leave a review on that. I'm very excited to start that. Thank you for coming on the show today. It was nice to speak with you. And everybody else can email if they have a suggestion for the next episode at SIMMFW podcast, either on Instagram or Gmail. So Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Okay.